Café lights, low all laughter, now just rumor. Empty chair, holding everything we never said. My hands around cooling coffee, tracing circles. Silence heavier than any angry word. I kept my voice gentle, my heart guarded. Every quiet choice built the wall higher. Love alone was never gonna save us. We kept stitching wounds with the same thin thread, walking on eggshells, afraid to really touch. Your tired eyes mirrored every fear I carried. Love alone was never gonna save us. We shared the same hidden fragile places. Old scars flinched whenever your voice trembled. Every soft apology made the crack wider. I mistook not shouting for learning kindness. I reached for you, words dissolved between us. Our careful tenderness still cut too deep. Love alone was never gonna save us. Under streetlights our silence finally screamed. Two quiet hearts chained by their own patterns. No villains here, just symmetry of age. Love alone was never gonna save us. After you left, the days turned feather soft. Your absence hung where your laughter used to live. I searched all last night for the breaking point. Found only threads thinning under their own weight. Forgiving us both, I loosened my holding, letting go slowly, like exhaling underwater. I walked out, our story folded in my chest. City hum wrapped around my careful steps. I met the empty space without resistance. Some loves dissolve, leaving gentler echoes behind. Love alone was never gonna save us. Now I see the mercy in our ending. We were brave enough to start reopening wounds, changed not ruined by the way we broke. I carry you softly, not as a burden. Love alone was never gonna save us. In this quieter heart, I finally accept us. Cold night leaning in on this cracked old porch. Your laughter's gone, even the walls sound tired. Shadows stretch long where our voices used to rise. I breathe in memories, they burn going down. I keep asking where the breaking really started. but every answer feels like chasing smoke. We were too broken to love each other. Love only sharpened every mirror in us. I held you close, your silence cut deeper. My quiet anger turned to quiet surrender. We were too broken to love each other. You said I disappeared when you needed proof. I shut down slow, afraid to say everything. Our ghosts kept arguing through our borrowed mouths. Every word we threw came back more jagged. I wanted to scream, I was still trying, but my throat chose silence over another war. We were too broken to love each other. We kept scratching at the cracks, not healing. Your eyes went distant, mine just turned inward. Love became the field where we both bled. We were too broken to love each other. That last night, the room echoed like a battlefield. My voice finally cut through, low and bitter. I asked if we were scared of the truth. You answered nothing, and that said everything. In that quiet, I saw our matching wounds. Two reflections flinching from the same light. Now I fold our photographs into my jacket. The edges soft like promises worn thin. Bitterness cool, settling into something heavier. I name it slowly, this hurt and acceptance. We were too broken to love each other. Love was never the shield we believed. It made every hidden fracture start bleeding. Letting go feels like losing my own skin, but staying meant tearing us further apart. We were too broken to love each other. Tonight I walk away, carrying what I've learned. You trace patterns through the rain-streaked light, your hands slowly writing this cold night. We sat with humming walls and distant sirens. Between us stretched everything we never mentioned. I reached in my mind, but not in truth. A afraid one honest word might end our youth. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. You watched the city blur, I watched you fade. A quiet love turned into careful breathing. Every promise trembled, never fully believing. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Every touch tripped over old unfinished streets. My need to please your history of worries. You pulled away, I apologize for ghosts. We danced familiar steps, breaking what we love most. Your eyes held longing wrapped in doubt, as if love itself might wear us out. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. We counted shadows instead of counting blessings. A tenderness kept cutting both our hands. We stood together, still on separate lands. Loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. That last long silence finally cracked my voice. I named our wounds, called every buried choice. You listened shaking, tears bright on your face. Stood on breaking glass, no saving grace. I felt you holding back from what you wanted. Our mirrored bruises left the future haunted. Nights grew quieter, softer, almost kind. No blame left, just space to unwind. I sat with the ache, not fighting anymore. Acceptance whispering, we'd outgrown this war. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Some stories end with letting go, not winning. We laid our weapons down, but not our scars. We chose our separate peace beneath the stars. Maybe time will soften what we couldn't feel. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. I let you go gently and keep us forgiven. Rain draws the city into trembling streaks tonight. He sits where the light and darkness meet. The heater hums, the room forgets your name. His thoughts are louder than the storm outside. You kept your distance, he stopped reaching. Both circling wounds that never really closed. Some love only teaches us how to feel. You guarded pain, he mistook it for leaving. Every flinch became another quiet betrayal. Every silence, something heavy neither could carry. Some love only teaches us how to feel. Mornings came hard with unsaid apologies. Nights wore that heavy, breakable silence. He traced the cracks through every memory, only finding his hurt reflecting back yours. You both held sorrow like fragile glass, afraid of shattering what was already broken. Some love only teaches us how to feel. In that dim cafe, his voice shook softly. Beautiful things slipped through trembling fingers. I never meant to hurt you, he whispered. Some love only teaches us how to feel. He searched your eyes for anger, found none. Just his own sadness echoed in your gaze. A mirror crack still somehow holding together. No villains here, only two tired hearts. Too much and never enough at once. Learning goodbye without learning to hate. Days later he rewound that final conversation. Silence growing where your laughter used to live. He folded the memory like a faded photograph, promising himself to face sunrise without you. Some love only teaches us how to feel. Not to stay, just to soften edges, to bless the hurt, release the blame, to let go while the heart still reaches, wishing you peace he cannot share anymore. Some love only teaches us how to feel. He walks toward morning, carrying less sorrow. Rainy light cutting lines across your face. Coffee and old pages breathing between us. Your hands were shaking, trying hard to hide. My voice dissolved before it reached you. I kept swallowing questions, afraid of the answers. Every silence felt sharper than any word. Sometimes loving you is never gonna be enough. We were tracing scars instead of seeing faces. Your distance echoed every fear I buried. My kindness turned heavy on your shoulders. Sometimes loving you is never gonna be enough. We walk conversations like glass about to break. Soft apologies met your guarded, careful quiet. Every step toward you cut into us both. Two ghosts reaching through the same old wound. I held my breath, hoping you would speak, but no one moved to break the pattern. Sometimes loving you was never gonna be enough. We kept mistaking pain for some kind of fate. Your eyes reflected storms I never named. My heart mirrored every shadow you carried. Sometimes loving you was never gonna be enough. I stared at your empty chair one evening. The room felt smaller than my regret. Our quiet harbor had turned into open sea. No villain here, only unspoken histories colliding. I wished for softness where edges had cut. Whispered sorries floated, never finding home. Dawn arrived gentle on the cracked blinds. I saw us clearly, mirrors not enemies. You were never cruelty, only unfinished healing. I let the hurt stay without bitterness. Sometimes loving you was never gonna be enough. Some stories just teach us how we break. You showed me every fear I kept hiding. I held your hurt like it was my own. Now I carry you as a quieter truth. Sometimes loving you was never gonna be enough. I remember you gently and finally understand. Dim corner seat, we first started talking, tracing circles where your coffee used to be. Warm air trying to hold my shaking chest, silence louder than the voice inside me. I kept my temper buried under whispers, peaceful words that still could never save us. We loved each other, but loving wasn't enough. I leaned closer, you kept building higher walls. Every gentle touch became another quiet pressure. I tried to fix you, cracked myself instead. We loved each other, but loving wasn't enough. Small moments turned to wounds we never named. You pulled back whenever I stepped toward you. Two shapes flinching from the same old shadow. Every soft offense becoming one more bruise. I feared your leaving, you feared being seen. Both of us hiding behind careful kindness. We loved each other, but loving wasn't enough. Another calm argument with shaking meanings. Words stayed quiet, but the hurt kept spilling. Foundations trembling under every careful promise. We loved each other, but loving wasn't enough. That night I saw our house was fragile, broken beams beneath our sweetest memories. Understanding you could never fill your fractures. Understanding me could never stop your distance. We weren't villains, just frightened in translation. Some wounds echo louder than devotion ever will. I watched our last goodbye replay in fragments. Your eyes begging, but your mouth stayed closed. No accusations, only a tired ache and mercy. Letting go softly like setting glass down. We loved each other, but loving wasn't enough. Stepping outside, night colder than that room. Carrying loss, but not as sharp as before. Letting our silence turn into a gentle lesson. Leaving the cracks, not forcing them together. We loved each other, but loving wasn't enough. I walk on, accepting what will never mend. Rain draws soft lines down the cafe glass. I stir cold coffee, watching strangers move past. Your laughter flickers in the blur of traffic. Every memory sharp, but the edges feel static. I keep replaying words we never finished. Taste the silence where you vanished. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. You said you loved me, but this never feels real. Our raw reflections tore the same old seams. Every touch of truth that broke at the seams. Loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. I reached for you behind your careful distance. Every soft apology meant your quiet resistance. Your eyes slid sideways, never really landing. Love turned to questions, neither one was understanding. Were you searching for a cure or just a mirror? I saw myself in you, only broken not enough to heal. Beneath those streetlights, truth cut through the chill. You said you're tired of walking this tightrope, every silence screaming louder than our hope. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. You turned away, but there was no villain, just two old wounds that kept reopening. Our kindness met fear and sparked new battles. Ceasefires crumbled with the smallest rattles. I walked home, carrying your unfinished sentences. No blame, just softly crushing consequences. Months pass slow, but I still hear you breathing in quiet rooms where nothing's really leaving. I've stopped asking who broke what between us. Some love is learning to live with the pieces. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. I hold that truth like something almost gentle. I forgive you for the walls you couldn't lower. I forgive myself for trying to be your savior. What's left is sorrow, but it finally feels real. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Outside, the rain softens, and I let you go. City hum barely reaches this quiet place. You're somewhere close, but galaxies from here. Our voices used to braid in the air. Now only echoes answer when I breathe. My hands tremble with this hollow exhaustion. Same old wounds circling, we never move. I'm learning how to live with feeling nothing. Where love once burned, there's only muted gray. Every promise fading like a distant photograph. I watch myself disappear from our own story. I'm learning how to live with feeling nothing. The last small argument swallowed the whole night. Old buried fears rose up, took our tongues. Your silence built a canyon in this room. My cracked voice folded, never reaching. I tried to speak, the words felt lifeless. Hope tangled somewhere I can't remember now. I'm learning how to live with feeling nothing. Where love once burned, there's only muted gray. Our history plays like a broken record. Same groove of hurt, no fight left. I'm learning how to live with feeling nothing. I don't blame you, I don't blame me. The familiar, then disappeared. Pain turned threadbare, thin as tired light. Rage went quiet, even grief fell asleep. I carry us like a shadow without weight, just a fact, like weather I accept. Morning bled in, no closure, no goodbye. Only this calm and empty kind of mercy. We loved enough to break, not to heal. Now love and pain blur into one hush. I'm learning how to live with feeling nothing. Our deepest wounds remain, but barely whisper. Some small part still dreams of different endings. Surface stays still, untouched by that hope. I move through days like someone else's life. I'm learning how to live with feeling nothing. In the quiet aftermath, I quietly remain.
Rain taking time on the late night window glass. I'm on the couches, breathing too shallow. Your name is waiting, blinking on my phone. Every word I type feels already broken. I keep rehearsing what my silence is saying, afraid one message might unmake us completely. I loved you enough to walk away quietly. Not with slammed doors, just the softest leaving, holding back storms that could shatter your sleep, letting my heart bruise where you can't see. I loved you enough to walk away quietly. Talking half-truths on those quiet evenings, too slow burning fires, pretending to be candles. Every step forward dragged us further backward. Our careful walls turned prison around everything tender. You feared my softness, I feared your retreat. Both of us bleeding through the same old wound. I loved you enough to walk away quietly. Never raised my voice, never named you guilty. I tried to hold you without making fractures, but every gentle touch echoed with old damage. I loved you enough to walk away quietly. One whisper became a canyon between our bodies. Your eyes flinched from the weight of unspoken hurt.
hurt. I folded inward smaller, hoping it might heal you. Realize loving harder only pulled us more apart. Sometimes mercy means not fighting the last battle. Sometimes goodbye is the kindest word unsaid. Now I trace cracks back through every memory. Not angry, just aching where tenderness lingers. I pack us away with reverence, not resentment, carrying you softly like a lesson finally learned. I loved you enough to walk away quietly, not because I stopped, but because I couldn't. Our shared ghost kept turning love into surrender. So I chose a silence that wouldn't scar you. Let my heart break softer than your tomorrow. I loved you enough to walk away quietly. Somewhere you'll know I left to keep you whole. Late light leaking through the crooked blinds, cracked leather sighs beneath my weight. My hands shake quiet on my knees. Outside, the city forgets our names. Your last words hang like dust between us. Maybe we were always breaking a lie. We loved, we hurt, and we lost ourselves. I tried to bridge what was only reflection, old wounds staring back in your trembling eyes. Every soft word reopening something buried. We loved, we hurt, and we lost ourselves. You asked for space, the silence answered. Every pause grew teeth between our hearts. We danced in circles around our fear, both of us guarding what already cracked. I pulled you closer, you pulled away slower. Two frightened mirrors refusing to shatter. We loved, we hurt, and we lost ourselves. My comfort only sharpened your defenses. Your need for control exposed my shaking. Same shadows moving underneath different faces. We loved, we hurt, and we lost ourselves. I see us now, an echo chamber of pain, not villains, just children with older scars. Jealousy, whispering what neither believed out, turning every touch into confession. No blame left, only a tired mercy, letting go softly, because holding hurts harder. I trace your sleeping silhouette in memory, mapping where tenderness hardened into tension. folding our moments like a fragile photograph, carrying them quiet, but not forever. We loved, we heard, and we lost ourselves. Some hearts fit but never learned to stay. Love was a lesson, not a sentence. One day we'll look back without flinching, remembering hope beneath all that damage. We loved, we hurt, and we lost ourselves. I'll leave you gently, so we both can heal.
Cold autumn biting through this borrowed jacket. Leaves scrape past like restless chasing memories. I'm sunk on this tired old park bench, breathing in the weight of what we weren't. Our careful walls kept every tremor echoing. I held out my hands, you held back. Sometimes loving you meant learning how to lose. We were mirrors cracked by fear, seeing bruises where there were only wounds. Two quiet hearts mistaking silence for surrender. Sometimes loving you meant learning how to lose. I hear our laughter fading down long afternoons, then that single glance turning into battlefield. Every reach from me made you recoil. Every trembling word from you I misread. Our reflections warped until we looked like enemies, both guarding broken pieces, calling it protection. Sometimes loving you meant learning how to lose. We were mirrors cracked by fear, looking away from sorrow we both carried. Trying not to bleed, we cut each other. Sometimes loving you and learning how to lose. That last gray day still hangs inside my chest. Your eyes wore my sadness just rearranged. Tears blurred the world while I whispered truth. We only hurt each other, saving ourselves. You nodded, letting quiet tears draw lines. That fragile thread between us finally surrendered. Now I sit with questions softer than before. Kindness wasn't weakness, just unfinished healing. We were prisoners of hurts we never named. Some loves teach leaving, not being saved. Sometimes loving you meant learning how to lose. We were mirrors cracked by fear, not villains, only tender, frightened survivors. Love isn't always a cure, it promises. I carry both our failings and our grace. Sometimes loving you meant learning how to lose. And slowly I let the leaving stay gentle. Dim corners, steam blurring everything beyond my face. Your name drifts up with the rising heat. I circle silence like I circled that drink. We held on, feeling every widening crack. I taste the words I never said, afraid my truth would finally end us. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Two mirrored wounds, pretending to be whole. You in my eyes, me in your trembling. We called it love, it was shared fear. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Those stretched out silences filled the entire room. Your hand half reaching, mine already pulling back. Every soft apology built another careful distance. We broke gently, dying by 1,000 hesitations. I kept the peace, let the poison settle. You match my retreat, wall for wall. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Rain on the streets, words drowning inside. My confession shook like light on puddles. Your tears answered, but nothing rewrote us. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. You home through that muffled drizzle. No accusations, just footsteps keeping rhythm. I finally knew love can be too fragile, too frightened hearts, no one to lead. I blamed our ghosts, never your shaking hands. Letting go felt kinder than holding tighter. Now rain taps time against my lonely window. This quiet isn't empty, it's a soft surrender. Forgiveness settles where the anger never came. I release your shadow, keep the gentle lake. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Some stories end before they find language. Our broken edges only cut us deeper. I bless your future, far from our ruins when scars fade. May peace replace our fear. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. In this afterglow of sorrow, I let us rest. You trace patterns through the rain, streetlight. Your hands slow, rewriting this cold night. We sat with humming walls and distant sirens. Between us stretched everything we never mentioned. I reached in my mind, but not in truth. Afraid one honest word might end our youth. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. You watched the city blur, I watched you fade. Our quiet love turned into careful breathing. Every promise trembled, never fully believing. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Every touch tripped over old, unfinished stories. My need to please, your history of worries. You pull away, I apologize for ghosts who dance familiar steps, breaking what we love most. Your eyes held longing wrapped in doubt, as if love itself might wear us out. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. We counted shadows instead of counting blessings. Our tenderness kept cutting both our hands. We stood together still on separate lands. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. The last long silence finally cracked my voice. I named our wounds, called every buried choice. You listened shaking, tears bright on your face. We stood on breaking glass, no saving grace. I felt you holding back from what you wanted. Our mirrored bruises left the future haunted.
Nights grew quieter, softer, almost kind. No blame left, just space to unwind. I sat with the ache, not fighting anymore. Acceptance whispering, we'd outgrown this war. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. Some stories end with letting go, not winning. We laid our weapons down, but not our scars. We chose our separate peace beneath the stars. Maybe time will soften what we couldn't feel. We loved enough to hurt, not enough to heal. I let you go gently and keep us forgiven.
Rain crawls down, blurring faces on the street. I sit alone, tracing lines I can't keep. Your laughter haunts whenever the sky turns gray. That fragile light feels 1,000 miles away. My quiet voice drowns beneath these roaring thoughts. Every unsaid word burns hotter than it ought. Maybe some loves aren't meant to mend. We held each other, reopening the same wounds. I tried to reach you, you slipped through fear. Your shadows met mine, neither of us prepared. Maybe some love aren't meant to mend. You called my softness weakness you couldn't trust. Your edges cut deep, still I never fuss. I feared if we fought, we'd never stop bleeding. So I swallow storms, call the thunder receding. You left one night, your silence screaming loud. Footsteps down the hall, a door, no sound. Maybe some loves aren't meant to mend. Not born from hate, just haunted reflections. Your hurt saw its mirror inside my eyes. We both mistook protection for our goodbyes. Maybe some loves aren't meant to mend. Weeks later I replay every fragile scene. Not to blame you, just to see me clean. I find my blind spots, name my hidden fears. I see how gently I disappeared for years. There's a quiet peace inside that aching space. Acceptance moves in where bitterness lost its place. I hope you outrun the ghosts we couldn't face. May someone hold you without that endless chase. I'm learning to carry mistaking. Maybe some loves aren't meant to mend. Ours taught me where my own shadows live, that even kind hands can't heal every scar. Some distance to stay, no matter how near we are. I'm letting you go, letting myself begin. Maybe some loves are meant to mend. In the hush after rain, I finally breathe.
City hum leaking through the cracked night, sleepless again, heart heavy with your absence. Your searching eyes still linger in shadows. My tenderness aches where your silence lives. I kept mistaking your distance for rejection. You kept mistaking my trembling for control. We were too alike to stay unbroken. Every reaching hand just brushed an old bruise. Every whisper comfort echoed something unfinished. Love watched us drown in the same reflection. We were too alike to stay unbroken. In early days I swore love healed. You flinched whenever I leaned in closer. My careful questions made your breathing shallow. Your guarded answers left my longing stranded. We mirrored each other's fear without speaking. Two quiet storms, pretending to be calm. We were too alike to stay unbroken. I felt abandoned every time you protected yourself. You felt smothered every time I needed reassurance. Our tears said everything our mouths resisted. We were too alike to stay unbroken. That last small argument dissolved into shaking silence. I saw our fractures lining up, cutting deeper. My hurt was only a plea for closeness. Your retreat was only a plea for safety. Love stood between us, hands helplessly open. Understanding came, but far too late. Now I replay each pause without accusation. Your wounds, my wounds, speak in the same language. No hero, no villain, only matching scars. I let the blame go, keep the lesson. We were too alike to stay unbroken. Love was a mirror we couldn't survive.
gesture. I don't regret you, I don't resent us. Some hearts can't hold what they still carry. We were too alike to stay unbroken. Soft afterlight, I finally accept